So what I thought we'd do for a video today is look back at the summer transfer window and every championship club's biggest signing, and in today's video I'm going to be ranking them out of 10 and basically deciding who are the best and worst big money moves in the summer. Before we do get into it though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, I'll leave a link in the top line of the description down below. Now we do have a lot of championship action going on at the moment. Obviously we've got all the midweek fixtures going on. When you guys will be watching this, we'll have had Tuesday's games and we've got Wednesday's games coming up tonight, so feel free to leave in the comments down below what you are thinking for all the midweek games. Over on the OneFootball app, you can go ahead and track all the latest action, get live updates to your phone and all that sort of stuff. You can also check out the stats for how these players that we're going to be talking about in today's video have been doing so far this season, but I use it all the time, so I'd highly recommend it. But like I said, I feel like today's video could be quite interesting, so we'll be going through the championship in alphabetical order. I'd like to know from you guys, how would you rank your club's biggest summer signing? Barnsley Luke Thomas, 6 out of 10. Now for Luke Thomas, you can definitely see there's potential there. He's only 20 years old and he came in from Derby in the summer for just over £1 million. A lot of his appearances so far this season have come off the bench and not been the most productive winger in the championship so far this season. He's got 1 goal and 2 assists, but you can tell that he's not quite the finished article yet, but there is potential there. For Luke Thomas, I'd say about a 6 out of 10 so far. Birmingham Ivan Sunjic, 9 out of 10. So far this season, I think that Sunjic has probably been one of Birmingham's best players, certainly technically. He wasn't cheap though, brought in for just over £7 million from Dynamo Zagreb in the summer, but he scored 2 absolute belters of them so far. With this new passing philosophy that Birmingham are trying to incorporate, Sunjic fits right into that. I think that moving forward, he's certainly got the potential to play at a much higher level. Blackburn Sam Gallagher, 5 out of 10. Considering Gallagher came over from Southampton this summer for a fairly big fee for Blackburn, you know, £5 million isn't cheap. He's only scored 1 goal so far this season, and albeit that hasn't completely been his fault, like he has been shoehorned out on the right hand side for a bit of this season so far, but things just haven't really clicked for him and Blackburn this far into this season. He did have one fantastic game at Deepdale this season. The first half I thought he was absolutely brilliant for that game, but those flashes of brilliance have been quite few and far between for Gallagher so far this season, who struggled to hit the back of the net. Brentford Brian and Bemo, 8 out of 10. Brentford spent quite a bit of money in this summer transfer window, but their highest fee paid according to transfer marks was from Bemo for a fee of around about 5.85 million. And it did take him a little bit of time to find his form in the championship. I remember watching him earlier on this season when Brentford came to Deepdale. Absolutely awful performance from him, I'm not going to lie. He was getting some really good areas, but his final product just wasn't there. But a few weeks ago, he really clicked into gear. Mostly playing on that right-hand side as Brentford like to play with a fluid front three. He's now got 4 goals and 3 assists so far this season, and certainly in the last month or so has been showing his real form. Bristol City Thomas Callas, 7 out of 10. With Thomas Callas, I think he's a fantastic defender. The only problem with him so far this season is the injuries that he's picked up, and he's missed a sizable chunk of the season so far. He's played 7 matches in the championship this far into this season, but I think that Bristol City really do feel his absence when he is out of the squad. Obviously, they did shell out quite a bit for Callas, paying just over £8 million, but I'd say he's probably one of the most consistent centre-backs in the league when he is fit. Cardiff City Robert Glatzel, 5 out of 10. Another player similar to Callas who struggled with injuries so far this season. With Glatzel going forward, things just haven't quite clicked for him at Cardiff yet. He scored 2 goals so far this season, one of which being a penalty. Considering he was brought in for just over £5 million and he was expected to be that striker to lead the line for Cardiff this season and really push for a promotion, that's not quite happened for him, and I think he's been a little bit underwhelming so far. Charlton Macaulay Bond, 9 out of 10. Considering the price tag at the start of the season, I'd say one of the bargain buys this far into the year. 5 goals in 9 starts for Charlton. In the absence of Lyle Taylor, Macaulay Bond's been the player leading the line for them and has proved a lot of people wrong so far this season, stepping up to this level. Derby Christian Bielik, 8 out of 10. I think it took him a little bit of time to get going at Derby, but he's now really starting to prove his worth for them. Brought in for just over £7 million in the summer, can play at both defensive midfield and at centre-back. I think his best position is probably in defensive midfield. Obviously, I watched Derby at the weekend. I thought they were absolutely brilliant against my team, Preston, and Bielik was absolutely central to that. Like, we couldn't get past him in midfield. And I think as this season progresses, he's only going to go on and get better. Fulham Ivan Cavallero, 8 out of 10. Like a lot of Fulham's transfers this season, this is originally on loan deal, but they do have the option to make it permanent at the end of the season. And so far for Cavallero, I think he's had a fairly good season for Fulham. 4 goals, 4 assists, as well as 3 man of the match performances. Has scored some fantastic goals so far this season. A couple of inconsistent performances, but on the whole so far, I think a good transfer. Huddersfield Isaac Mbenza, 3 out of 10. Mbenza was on loan at Huddersfield last season in the Premier League, and then they made that transfer permanent in the summer, and it cost them over £11 million. So far this season in the league, he's made 1 start, made 4 appearances from the bench. In that time, has no goal contributions and an average match rating of 6.1. An absolute disaster of a transfer, and unless there is some dramatic turnaround in his fortune at Huddersfield, he's got to go down as one of their biggest flops. Paul George Honeyman, 5 out of 10. He's an alright player really. He's not exactly set the world alight highlight at Hull City, but for the price tag he was brought in for, you know, less than £500,000, it was a relatively low risk signing. Although saying that, Preston play Hull tonight when you guys will be watching this, and you can pretty much bank your house on him scoring tonight after I've said that probably. Leeds United, Helder Costa, 6 out of 10. Now all the signings that Leeds made in the summer transfer window were originally on loan deals. The Helder Costa one included in that, but the Helder Costa deal will become a permanent next summer for a fee of around about £14 million. So far this season, I don't really think that Costa's delivered on that price tag. With no goals in the Championship and just 1 assist to his name, he's shown in small glimpses that he can be a quality player. You know, he gets himself into decent pockets of space, but just isn't quite that same player that we saw in the Championship with Wolves a few years ago. You feel like if it does finally click for Costa, then he will be a quality player, but up until this point, that's not really happened for him at Leeds so far. Luton Town, Simon Sluga, 3 out of 10. Coming in as a record club fee, the goalkeeper Simon Sluga had quite high expectations at Luton. Things didn't particularly get off to a great start for him, making his debut against Middlesbrough, where he made a bit of a howler for the Sumbalonga goal in that game, conceded 3 goals in his debut. And from then onwards, he did make a few decent saves for them, but things went downhill quite fast for Sluga, with his worst performance of the season so far probably coming at Derby away, where he dropped 2 absolute clangers, resulting in him being dropped to the bench, and now he can't get into the first team as Sheff has overtaken him as their number 1. Middlesbrough, Anthony Dijksteel, 4 out of 10. Overall, not a great standing for Borough this far into the season. I think that Borough in recent years have wasted a whole lot of money. Dijksteel's had a few decent performances. I thought he played alright when we went to the Riverside. He's still fairly young, he's only 22, but on the whole, not a brilliant signing so far. I thought he had an absolute disaster class in their game against Hull at the weekend, costing just shy of £2 million. Not a great bit of business so far. Millwall, Conor Mahoney, 6 out of 10. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for Mahoney so far this season at Millwall. I thought he started off the season fairly brightly, had a good game against North End on the opening day. He's one of those tricky wingers who looks good in flashes but doesn't really have that much final product. He's yet to score for Millwall but does have 2 assists for them so far. I think I'd just like to see a bit more end product really. Nottingham Forest, Cole Jenkinson. I can't really give him a grade. He's been injured all season, hasn't he? He's only played 3 matches. Matty Cash has been brilliant for Forest so far, but Cole Jenkinson hasn't really featured. So instead for Forest, I'll go for Bryce Samba, their second most expensive signing of the summer, cost just 100k less than Jenkinson. For Bryce Samba, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's been a fantastically shrewd signing from Forest, a position they were crying out for quite a while now actually. But he's coming in and stabilising them at the back. Certainly one of the most consistent goalkeepers so far this season, and definitely in the category for the best in the Championship at the moment. Preston North End, Tom Bayliss. Another one which I can't really give a ranking to because he's not played in the Championship so far this season. We've seen him in a couple of appearances in the League Cup so far, but that's really the only action we've seen of Tom Bayliss this far into the season. Signed from Coventry for around about £2 million in the summer, one of the most upcoming promising players from the lower leagues, but he's not really been introduced to the squad so far. Obviously, he's coming into the position where it's probably our strongest. You know, he's competing with the likes of Daniel Johnson, Ben Pearson, Paul Gallagher, Alan Brown. Given time, I think that Bayliss will become very good. To actually give a ranking to one of the Preston signings though, so far this season, Patrick Bauer, I'd say 9 out of 10. On the free from Charlton, he's been absolutely massive for us and has really stabilised us at the back. QPR's a bit of a tricky one really because they didn't actually spend any money during this summer. All their players were either brought in on loan deals or on free transfers. So for their player, I've gone for Jordan Hugill, the player they brought in during the summer on loan who had the highest value according to Transfermarkt. For Jordan Hugill, I give him an 8 out of 10 so far this season for QPR. A really brilliant signing for them. 8 goals this far into the season. I think he's had a fantastic partnership with Naki Wells up front. Reading George Puskas, 5 out of 10. So far this season, Puskas hasn't really lived up to the hype. He had that blistering performance at the start of the season against Cardiff City when he absolutely tore them apart. But since then, just hasn't really looked like the same player. He looks like a striker who's lacking in confidence. He's missed sitter after sitter for Reading. A positive slant to take on Puskas would be at least he is getting into the right positions. You know, he does make some decent runs for them. I think his movement's pretty good. But in front of goal at the moment, he's just lacking that killer instinct. Considering he cost Reading over £7 million in the summer, you'd expect a bit more. Sheffield Wednesday, Massimo Luongo, 7 out of 10. So far this season, I've actually been surprised that Luongo has not played more football. He's only made 3 starts for Wednesday so far this season and has come off the bench 6 times. I think that sometimes Wednesday are missing maybe a bit of a goal threat from midfield, but Luongo certainly brings that. I think he's got more to offer Wednesday. He just needs to be given that chance. Stoke, Tommy Smith, 4 out of 10. So far this season, I'm yet to really see a great performance from Tommy Smith. In fairness, he's not played much football. He's only played 5 matches for Stoke. But after joining in the summer for £4 million, you'd expect a little bit more from him, really. Swansea, Christopher Christopher Peterson, 5 out of 10. He's another player on this list who's just not really featured so far this season, only making 1 start for Swansea and 3 appearances off the bench. I'd like to see more of him because I think he can offer Swansea something, but so far this season it's such a small sample size I can't really make much of an assessment on him so far. West Brom, Kenneth Zohore, 5 out of 10. West Brom did some fantastic business during this summer, but Kenneth Zohore probably not the highlight of that business. He scored 2 goals for West Brom so far this season, both goals coming from the penalty spot. Whenever he has featured, he's not really stated to claim that he should be their main man leading the line, and considering they spent £8 million in the summer for him, I don't think he's had the best start to his West Brom career. Wigan Athletic, Jamal Lowe, 5 out of 10. After absolutely terrorising defences in League One last season, the transition up to the Championship hasn't been brilliant so far for Jamal Lowe. Just 1 goal and 1 assist this far into the season with Wigan, considering they spent over £2 million for him during the summer. I think Wigan fans were expecting a little bit more. But guys, they have it. There was every Championship club and their most expensive summer signing ranked out of 10. So do you guys agree with me for this one? Let me know in the comments down below. I had quite a bit of fun making this one. It was interesting to look into, really. So let me know down below, who do you think's been your best summer signing, and do you think you got the value for your most expensive one? Apart from that though, that will not wrap it up, so make sure you do leave a like if you did go into enjoy the video. Make sure you do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.